Hello and welcome to episode 346 of the official EstablishTheRun.com podcast. My name is Adam Levitan. As always, joined by Evan Silva. Evan is leaving for the NFL Combine tomorrow. Get some full-blown boots on the ground information among drunken NFL coaches. Evan, good morning. How's it going?
Yes. The NFL trade rumors and free agency signing rumors, they are coming. The weather is starting to get a little bit warmer. The long COVID remains long, and the gas prices are skyrocketing. And here we are, March 1st, recording, ready to talk some ball, ready to talk some coaches.
Yeah, and I think we're going to refer to coaching changes, obviously, throughout all the content we do throughout the offseason. Today is our first focused look at 2022 NFL coaching changes. I think more than any other sport, coaching impacts player level statistics, right? Like, it's just so hard for a lot of these coaches to find the right scheme, highlight the right players, make the optimal decisions. You know, coaches can draw up plays as a priority for certain players. Again, I think it's really important stuff, way more important than any other sport. This year, there are 10 coaching changes we think are most important. We're going to cover the first 5 on this episode, the next 5 on the next episode. Before we get into it, wanted to remind everyone this show is brought to you by the EstablishTheRun.com NBA product. Our guys are grinding their cocks off to help you better than anyone else with NBA props and DFS. And by the way, we do have a special deal with BetMGM where if you sign up for a BetMGM account with our link, deposit $10, they will send you a coupon for $84.99. You can use that on any EstablishTheRun.com product. That's on top of the 1K free bet that you get for signing up with that link. So check all that out on both the NBA subscribe page and on our ETR Sportsbook bonus offers page. That's the first item on the drop down from the betting and props tab. All right, Evan, let's get into it here. We're going to go in alphabetical order and start with the Bears. Matt Nagy, mercifully, is gone. Matt Eberflus, former Colts defensive coordinator, is in as the head coach. And you know what? I think the narrative around when you hire a defensive mind as the head coach is kind of true. If you hit on your offensive coordinator, you're in trouble because he's going to get a head coaching job anyways, right? So, I don't know about this from a strategical standpoint from the Bears. Obviously, they've made questionable decisions throughout recent history. What do you think of the Bears replacing Matt Nagy with Matt Eberflus? And then we're going to get to Luke Getsy and all that stuff in a minute here.
Yeah, well, this is a full top-to-bottom overhaul, which is what the Bears obviously needed. Hiring Ryan Poles away from Kansas City. He has a great reputation. Sounds like a great guy. Played in the league for a little bit, and now he's going to be running the show in place of Ryan Pace. Ryan Poles hired Matt Eberflus away from the Colts. There will be some similarities between the defenses that are run between Matt Eberflus and Bears fans remember, obviously, Lovie Smith. Matt Eberflus runs one of the NFL's purest cover 2, Tampa 2 style defenses. But offensively, where we're most concerned, it's going to be Luke Getsy, the Packers quarterbacks coach for the last 3 years. You know, I remember Luke Getsy. He was sort of like a fringe NFL prospect coming out of Akron. And, you know, he just wound up being a coach. He did not call plays in Green Bay. He was, third on the totem pole at best behind Aaron Rodgers and Matt LaFleur when it came to making decisions on offense. I would say that he's largely an unknown at this point, exactly how he's going to run his offense. And he's going to obviously have to cater it to the playing style of Justin Fields, who throws a great deep ball and can be a dynamic playmaker as a dual threat, but has some other areas of his game that obviously need polish. So I don't think we can say anything really definitive here about what Luke Getsy is going to bring to Chicago. The Bears do not have a first-round pick. They traded that away in the Justin Fields deal, and they still need a lot of talent. I mean, I'd be shocked if Allen Robinson returns to Chicago. And I mean, they need help on the O-line. Like James Daniels, arguably their best offensive lineman, is a free agent. Tevin Jenkins, who they traded up for at the top of the second round last year, didn't even play as a rookie essentially. So, I mean, there's just a lot of question marks here still.
Yeah, I think from a Luke Getsy perspective, and obviously I think that's the key here, no one really knows. He's only 38 years old. As Evan said, though, he's been buried behind some guys in Green Bay, even though he's been with the Pack mostly since 2014. You know, it's one thing to say, oh, you were great with Aaron Rodgers. And Aaron Rodgers did have some really good things to say about Luke Getsy. Aaron Rodgers fought for them to keep Luke Getsy. He said he was sad to see him go. So that's a good endorsement there. But, you know, coaching Aaron Rodgers and coaching Justin Fields is obviously way, way, way different. So I don't really have any strong takeaways on the Luke Getsy thing. We'll have to see how it goes. I will say that Justin Fields, I mean, despite a really slow start, flashed at least a little bit down the stretch last year and gives him some tape to work on there. Let's go to Broncos. Nathaniel Hackett replaces Vic Fangio. Another Packers story here, as Nathaniel Hackett, of course, former Packers offensive coordinator, has also been offensive coordinator for the Jags and the Bills in his career, never been a head coach. Nathaniel Hackett is 42 years old, and I think that's a theme here with the Broncos. They get rid of Vic Fangio, 63, Pat Shurmur, 56, Mike Munchak, 61, and now Hackett is 42. The offensive coordinator is going to be Justin Uten, is only 38. And so like a whole youth movement in coaching here for the Broncos. What do you think about Nathaniel Hackett taking over at the helm of the Denver Broncos?
Well, yeah, I mean, this is another guy that, you know, he was behind in the pecking order, both Aaron Rodgers and Matt LaFleur in Green Bay in terms of offensive decision-making. So we don't really know what, he probably dealt with game planning primarily and just week-to-week coaching. But I remember when I was doing a lot of stuff with Warren Sharp, looking at the analytics of the offense that was run by Nathaniel Hackett in Jacksonville. Warren Sharp was not a fan of Nathaniel Hackett analytically in terms of his decision-making from down to down. And so now he goes to Denver. I mean, it just seems like this is the way that the Broncos are trying to capture Aaron Rodgers, is by bringing in Nathaniel Hackett and Justin Uten, who worked on the Packers offensive staff as well. They're kind of going all in on trying to lure Aaron Rodgers to Denver, which, hey, I mean, there are alluring things about going to Denver. Now, he's going to have familiarity with the coaching staff. They've got a ton of offensive talent. They could just drop him right in. It really is a match made in heaven on paper. But, they're going to have to surrender probably 3 first-round draft picks. Green Bay, I think, right now wants to keep Aaron Rodgers and made its own hire of Tom Clements as throwing a bone to Aaron Rodgers. Tom Clements bringing him out of retirement. Aaron Rodgers loves Tom Clements to be his quarterback, and they hired him back to be his quarterback's coach again. So it's kind of, the Packers are doing what they can to keep Aaron Rodgers. The Broncos are doing what they can to try to lure Aaron Rodgers, and we're just going to have to see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, if they get Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Rodgers, Javonte Williams, Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, Tim Patrick, KJ Hamler, Noah Fant, Albert O. I mean, come on, you're talking about one of the best teams in the AFC already. Even if they don't get Aaron Rodgers, though, I hated the way the Broncos played offense last year. They were so conservative, so run-centric, despite having all these weapons. I think when you get rid of Fangio and Shurmur and you bring in Hackett and Justin Uten, at least you have a chance to be more aggressive, no matter who your quarterback is. But obviously quarterback play is going to be the story for the Broncos here. It just hasn't been good enough with Teddy and Drew Lock, despite all the talent around it. I know, I'm interrupting the video. Wah. But if you're enjoying this video and want to see more fantasy football and DFS content like it, please just take 2 seconds, hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up button. Really does go a long way for us, and we'd appreciate it. Thank you for watching, and now back to the show. Let's go to the Dolphins. Mike McDaniel replaces Brian Flores. And I know Evan has some things to say about Brian Flores and how that all went down. I'll say this on Mike McDaniel. So many people have gotten in touch with me and tweeted at me and said, yo, this dude, Mike McDaniel, he looks like you. He talks like you. And I guess I get it. He's 38. I'm 39. He's 5'9", 170. Okay. He's not really a football dude. He went to a much better school than me. He went to Yale. He majored in history. I get it. So cool. He seems like a funny dude. one thing that we did see from Mike McDaniel already is like he is rock hard for Jalen Waddle. Yes. I mean, he went on Levitard's show and like unprompted started like going full boner for Jalen Waddle, which I get. Anyways, you can start wherever you want. I don't know if you want to start with the Brian Flores stuff or you want to go right to McDaniel, whatever you want to do on this Dolphins stuff.
No, I mean, it's just unprecedented that any coach, I mean, and I can't even believe that this aspect of Brian Flores firing has been rarely discussed. I mean, we understand that the Dolphins started off really slow last year. Remember, they lost their secondary, which is what the foundation of their defense. You know, their quarterback got hurt. Devontae Parker was hurt. Jalen Waddle was a rookie who really got better as the season progressed. Wound up winning 8 of their final 9 games. That's unprecedented in NFL history that an NFL coach would be fired. I remember there was one year when Marty Schottenheimer got fired after going like 14-2 as I believe the Chargers head coach. But beyond that, I mean, I can't remember anything like that ever happening. Brian Flores was a legit rock solid coach. And the problems really, since Stephen Ross bought the team, the Dolphins have sort of been in this rotating state of dysfunction. And it really came to a head there, firing Brian Flores after the Dolphins finished 8 of their last 9. I mean, that's incredible. As for Mike McDaniel, I think that he's, an interesting guy. He says, I mean, what he says, like if you were just to, just the text of what he says, he sounds exactly like Kyle Shanahan, the way that he talks about the game, the way that he, believes that is the optimal way to play offense. And he's not, I know he looks nerdy. I don't think he's like super analytical. I don't think he's, beholden to analytics or anything like that. I think that he mixes, he wants to mix a lot, but he's also, I mean, he talks a little bit more like a football guy, I think, than he looks like in terms of his appearance. But, I think he's going to, try to use a lot of the concepts that, Kyle Shanahan to get the ball out of Tua's hands quickly, which he showed that he could do last season. I mean, he had one of the quickest releases in the league. They want to get the ball to the post-catch playmakers. Jalen Waddle certainly suits that. They're going to need more guys like Jalen Waddle, though. They need multiple more post-catch playmakers.
Well, I'll say 2 things. First, on Brian Flores, it's hard to deal with like the tanking and coming out of that. And I thought Brian Flores, like I saw it in Philly firsthand when the Sixers did the tank. Like it's hard for coaches to hang on because coaches are judged on wins and losses, period. And so, when you're tanking or you're coming out of a tank, you don't have a ton of talent. Brian Flores went 5-11 his first year, 10-6 his second year, 9-8 his third year. Again, like Evan said, I thought he did, given the situation, a really, really good job. I am excited for Mike McDaniel, though. I think one thing that he's learned from Kyle Shanahan is like get the ball to your playmakers and let them do work. And every year, Debo and Kittle and Ayuk and whoever else is among the league leaders in yards after catch per touch, he's going to try to set up guys to do that. I agree they need more players, but I mean, Waddle, Parker, Gesicki is a fine start, or at least Waddle, Gesicki, is at least a fine start, and they'll get more going there, I think. So optimism for Tua, I think, but I'm excited for Mike McDaniel. Maybe because everybody says I remind them of him.
Well, it's better than Giants. Pete Davidson, who's not funny at all. God. Do people really think Pete Davidson is funny? Do you think he's funny?
I don't. I personally don't think he's funny at all.
Not at all. Not even remotely funny. Like,
yeah, I don't really think many people are funny, but yeah, except for. I talked about that on the solo pod. There's one guy I think is funny, but he's too sick of a puppy to even talk about. Okay, anyways, we're off the rails. Giants. This one's exciting, man. I thought Brian Daboll, I mean, to think about what Brian Daboll has done with Josh Allen, I mean, you would have thought that the Bills made like the most egregious pick in the history of the NFL draft when they took Josh Allen. And I know a lot of people have forgotten that now. Like people crushed the Bills for taking Josh Allen. And maybe under a different staff, Josh Allen doesn't work out. Under Brian Daboll, he has worked out to the point where he's like legit, arguably the best, if not one of the best quarterbacks in the entire NFL. So I'm excited for what Brian Daboll can do in his first NFL head coaching experience. Giants have been so bad for so long now What do you think about Brian Daboll taking over for Joe Judge for the Giants?
Yeah, this was another full house cleaning, which the Giants obviously, I mean, they've been one of the worst franchise, maybe the worst franchise in the NFL. I know that sounds crazy because, we think about Wellington Mara and, beating Tom Brady twice, in the Super Bowl, et cetera, et cetera. But I mean, they're 10 years removed from being a quality franchise. And I think you could argue that they were the worst franchise in the NFL over the last 8 years. And so they needed this house cleaning. I think we've known this for years at this point. It had gotten, they waited too long with Gettleman. They waited too long with Eli Manning, but they did a full 180. I mean, they are going all in on a spread a spread offense under Brian Daboll. Joe Shane, who comes from Buffalo, that's a very analytically oriented organization. You know that he's going to be all over that stuff. They've made actual analytics hires. Mike Kafka, who's going to be their new OC. And I've been hearing about him for years that he was a potential star in the making. He gets his shot to work under Brian Daboll and, have a heavy hand in the offense. And then they stole Wink Martindale to be their defensive coordinator. The Ravens wanted to move on, just kind of turn the page and go to Mike McDonald, who had been on their staff previously, a younger guy. He worked for John Harbaugh's brother, Jim, at Michigan. And so they turned the page, got younger at defensive coordinator. Wink Martindale has been one of the top 8-10 defensive coordinators in the league for a while. So I really like, and I've killed the Giants, appropriately for a long time. I had to tweet positively about the Giants. It felt weird earlier this offseason, but I mean, I really like what they're doing. I mean, I really like what they put together. They've got to, still have so many problems on the offensive line. They got to figure out what they're doing in the pass catcher core. And they certainly need some more pieces on defense, although I think they've got a decent little foundation on defense. But man, from a coaching staff, front office standpoint, it looks like they have finally emerged from the Stone Age.
I mean, I think Brian Daboll is going to do a good job. I really do. And if you squint really hard, and everyone's going to laugh and everybody's going to laugh, if you squint really hard, what Daniel Jones does well, he's a little bit mobile. He's been erratic. You could say the same things about Josh Allen, and maybe with Kenny Golladay and Kadarius Toney, who flashed, and Slayton and Sterling Shepard, and we'll see if Evan Ingram's back.
They have pieces to run the spread. They really do.
They can emulate what Josh Allen and the Bills did. I really think they can. And so, I've lost a lot of money on Giants as sleeper stuff in best ball and season long, and even in DFS at times before I gave up on them. But man,
it's time to get it all back.
We're gonna have to win the Millie Maker to get it back, but nevertheless, we're gonna try to get it back.
What do you think about Mitchell Trubisky? Mitchell Trubisky was the backup to Josh Allen last year in Buffalo under Brian Daboll. They've got a year together. What do you think about the possibility of I think one of the problems is the salary cap, and he actually might get expensive, but I don't know. I mean, he fits the spread, and he already knows the offense.
Yeah. And Mitch Trubisky's going to have a lot of interest. If I was him, I would be looking to go somewhere where I almost certainly thought I could win the starting job. I think if he goes to the Giants, he's going to compete. But there's going to be a lot of places he can go where he could be almost guaranteed the starting job, So we'll see what happens there.
The supply and demand situation is really working in the favor of Mitchell Trubisky. And I think it might also work in the favor of Marcus Mariota, but we'll talk a little bit more free agency next week, probably.
Jaguars. Obviously, Urban Meyer was gone. Doug Pederson will be the new Jaguars head coach. Everybody remembers Doug Pederson from his run as a Philadelphia Eagles head coach in which he won the Super Bowl. Man, I was in Philly at that point. It never struck me, and I don't want to, discredit the guy or whatever because I don't actually know, but it never struck me that Doug Pederson was the reason that they won. I thought Frank Reich had more to do with that Super Bowl run than Doug Pederson did. Still, Doug Pederson showed a willingness to listen to other people. He had this math dude in his ear during games to tell him what to do on fourth downs. He brought in Press Taylor to be his offensive coordinator, brother of Bengals coach Zach Taylor. Press Taylor is the dude who called the Philly special famously in the Super Bowl. And Jim Bob Cooter will be the pass game coordinator. So I think certainly an upgrade in staff for the Jaguars. It's hard to have really many takeaways from what the Jaguars did last year. It was such a mess. But what do you think about Dougie P taking over in Jacksonville?
How the hell is Trent Baalke still their GM is what I want to know. I mean, I would like to just see them just move on from Trent Baalke and just give Doug Pederson like the CEO role where he's like the GM and the head coach. I mean, they may as well. It can't be a worse situation than having Trent Baalke. What is Trent Baalke? Why did they hire him in the first place? What has he done? He was awful in San Francisco. I mean, he buried them by drafting all these injured guys, that couldn't even play in year one. So you were just burning, the first year of their 4-year rookie deals. And then they come back and none of them work out. I mean, he was absolutely awful. Just the epitome of hubris that you think that your team is so loaded that you can draft guys that aren't even going to play in the first year of their rookie deal. I mean, it's infuriating. It's the cocoon is really what it is. Anyways. Yeah. Doug Pederson brings in Press Taylor, he was his quarterback's coach. That's his boy. Jim Bob Cooter was not really impressive as the passing game or as the OC in Detroit, building the offense around low ADOT Golden Tate and Theo Riddick with big arm Matthew Stafford at quarterback. And then their quarterback's coach, oh man, their new quarterback's coach is Mike McCoy. You remember last time we saw Mike McCoy?
Is he Chargers head coach?
No. Well, he was that before, but the last time we saw him, he was in Arizona.
Yeah.
Coordinating the 2018 Cardinals offense that averaged 14 points per game. He's been out of coaching ever since then, deservedly. So I don't know, man. I love Trevor Lawrence, and I still have some hope for Laviska Shenault and all this, but I hope that Doug Pederson just has his hands on everything because I trust him way more than any of these other guys.
I will say getting Travis Etienne back and getting TJ Shark back, I think makes a difference.
TJ Shark's a free agent.
Okay.
Yeah.
And getting more weapons. I mean, last year, he was throwing to like Laquan Treadwell and stuff like that. That's just not going to work, So
Marvin Jones was like the clear-cut number one receiver.
Yeah, I mean, it was really bad. And so getting personnel upgrade and coaching upgrade. But yeah, I mean, there's people right now who are like, oh man, Jaguars should have taken Mac Jones number 1 overall. I don't think that's it. I think it's just more like if Mac Jones was a Jaguar, it would be a mess also. Wow. It's just organizational
Who the hell
stuff.
said that?
Yeah, another straw man for me. Anything else you want to say on the Packers? I know you mentioned the Packers, what they did to try to retain Aaron Rodgers. They lost a lot of guys, but I don't think it really matters too much because Matt LaFleur, and assuming Rodgers comes back, is going to handle a ton of that. Anything else you want to say on the Packers, or should we wrap it?
No, we can wrap it. I mentioned the Tom Clements thing. It's just, the Packers, I don't think that Tom Clements is necessarily going to have a big hand in the offense. It's just that was a move that was clearly designed to say to Aaron Rodgers, hey, man, we want you back.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. That's going to do it for part 1 of this look at 2022 NFL coaching changes. We'll be back next episode for part 2, where we cover the final 5 coaching changes of the season. If you are watching on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button. If you're on iTunes or anywhere else podcasts are found, hit subscribe. It is free. We'll be back multiple times per week throughout the offseason. For producer Luke, for Evan, I am Adam. Good luck, everybody.